So I recalled that I did make a promise that we were going to talk more about writing stuff on this channel, and I do intend to keep that promise. Now you might be wondering, well, how are you going to talk about writing? Well, thanks for asking. I'm going to talk about writing in conjunction with reboots. Now, specifically, the example I'm going to have to use is the Disney live-action reboots. Now, I know some people love them, I know some people hate them, and it's very much a mixed bag. I am of the opinion that the reboots are actually, for realsies, horrible. And the reason why they're horrible is because a reboot should be originally presented. Think Maleficent or Cruella. They were reboots done of original Disney properties, Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians, respectively, but they told it from the point of view of the villain. Like, we already know what happened from the hero's point of view. What about the other point of view? So, why am I of the opinion that Disney reboots are bad? Because the reboots add very little in the way of storytelling other than live action. They outright omit some information, completely hand wave away other bits of information, and just in general think if we add an extra song, right? If we add an extra song, it's gonna be fine. It's not fine. Your reboots are actually, for realsies, terrible. And I do mean that on a not even a funny level. The reboots are bad. The reboots take away so much of the original story, which is not bad if you're rebooting something. But if the reboot comes at the expense of, the actual story you're trying to tell, it kind of makes it seem hollow. And honestly, wondering, why are we doing this? Case in point, right? Because I know, if you're my friend, I've harped on this a lot. The Aladdin reboot. The Aladdin reboot is not something that, one, I feel like they should have tried to reboot because they had so much stuff in the original Aladdin franchise that, like, where exactly are we gonna go? There's not really more to go. And before you say, I don't think that sounds right, there was the original Aladdin, there was the Aladdin TV series that was on the Disney Afternoon, there was all of the straight-to VHS movies, and also there was the Aladdin video game. So before you tell me, it didn't really have a lot. It did have a lot. So why am I bringing up Aladdin? Because if you're gonna reboot the story, right, everybody's big concern was, well, Robin Williams. Nobody can do it like Robin Williams. And you're right. Robin Williams set a precedent for that character because of who Robin Williams was. The smart thing that Disney should have done for who they cast, right? No offense to Will Smith. He's fine. He did a great job being the genie, but he wasn't the genie, right? Capital T, capital G, the genie. Instead, Disney should have made it a point to just point blank, we're not trying to be like Robin Williams and be a super biggie hype squad. We need you to be you. We need you to be your version of the genie, because then it's a reboot. And I do mean that on a realistic level. Like, if they had done the genie with just Will Smith being Will Smith without him trying to do right the same energy as Robin Williams, because that's personally what I felt he was trying to do, it would have been better. Or if they had made it to where the genie is just so done with constantly granting wishes that when Aladdin gets, Will Smith as the genie, Will Smith would have been like, all right, listen, this is how this goes. Here's the rules. Here's how many wishes you get. I really don't care what your name is. I don't care why you're down here with me. Make your wishes and let me go back to sleep because I'm tired of already being here. Making a genie, right, who's already tired of humanity would have been a more interesting take, because then we could have seen the slow progression of the genie realizing Aladdin isn't like the other masters that he's had. It would have been more interesting, and in all honesty, would have been a better segue for the story of, instead of Aladdin trying to be, a fake prince of a fake country, it could have just been, I need you to change the way the world is so that way she can be in charge of her own destiny. Do you know how much more empowering that would have been, instead of it being Aladdin, who is selfish, getting what he wants, Aladdin who, I just really love this girl and I really want her to be happy. That's it. It would have been a better story, it really would have. But that's not what we got. Case in point, the reason why the Maleficent and the Cruella reboot work, right, compared to all of the other, well, in all honesty, horrible Disney reboots, is because they said, we're gonna tell you the story specifically from the villain's point of view. So all we're doing is expanding on the universe that it was originally a part of, condensing it down a little bit to what we need it to be condensed down to in that universe, and focusing solely on the villain's perspective, while also re-putting back in all of the other major characters in a way that provides sustenance to the story at large. Right? Maleficent. It's the story of Maleficent, the evil fairy who cursed Aurora to sleep for, well, not even cursed her to sleep, just cursed her to die on her 16th birthday because she got snubbed from a party. That's the original story. When they retold it where it's her specific story, right, that's what the reboot's about, she had a reason for being incredibly upset at the humans. She had a reason to suddenly change her tune and be like, I don't want her to die. Like, it's not fair. Like, she really didn't do anything. Her father did everything to me, but I'm punishing her for stuff her father did. And instead of, you know, it being some random guy that she met in the woods, which is still, right, the element of the quote-unquote love story, the love came because Maleficent realized, I love this kid. It's my kid. I've been raising this kid inadvertently for quite a bit, and I really don't want her to die. That's how the curse gets broken. It's a good way of retelling the story, and it's a way of explaining why she was so upset for everything. The Cruella thing is telling you it's like she just wanted really badly to make fashion. And then they made like a murder mystery in like smack dab in the front of it, and you're like, okay, it's a lot going on, but okay. And it works is because they were like, we're doing 80s punk rock in England. Oh, cool. That actually sounds super duper interesting. And then, right, the original Dalmatians are not even her original Dalmatians from her friends, because that's what happens, right? Anita is her childhood, like, classmate who turned reporter, and at the end, her and Roger get the Dalmatians that Cruella stole, right, from the main villain, and Cruella just keeps them. It's like, what an interesting and nuanced way to retell this story without actually making it about a legitimate dog killer. Such a bold new take on it, and I'm so happy that they decided to backtrack on that. Because Cruella, realistically, of all the Disney villains, like, lady, what is your damage? Jesus Christ. Also, everything I've seen that they say is like Dalmatian print on stuff, every time I look at it, my immediate thought is cows? And I think that's just a me thing, because I dress like a circus clown, so that's a me thing too. And I wondered, right, when I first heard about all the Disney reboots and how absolutely horrible they are, and I finally sat down and watched all of it, I realized the one reason why all of this is going on. Because despite what Disney tries to tell you of, we're a family company and we value our guests. No, they don't. There's one reason and one reason only why Disney keeps chunking out all of these god-awful reboots.
We're here to remind you about possibly life's greatest joy of all. Money.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only reason. And I know that some people will sit there and tell me, it's like, no, Disney is good. Disney's brought us all of this other stuff. I'm going to let you know right now, that is, for realsies, actually a lie. Disney has been playing this Monopoly game for quite a while. So, I'm just going to let you know right now that what I'm about to tell you is easily found on the World Wide Web. You can actually Google it yourself, and all you gotta do is Google, how many companies does Disney own? And Walt Disney owns over 200 companies. They cover everything from movies, music, TV shows, video games, cruise lines. And they're on the most like TV networks, right? Including ABC, ESPN, A&E, including the Lifetime network, which when I found that out, I straight up giggled. They even own the History Channel. Yes, that is correct. You heard me. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens channel is that, right? There is very little that Disney doesn't own. They have Star Wars, they have the Muppets, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not the X-Men, right? Not yet. We'll get there. I'm sure we'll get there. Lord knows we'll get there. Like, they own so much stuff that it's actually mind-boggling that, it's not a bigger deal to people. And why? Why do they own so much of everything? They own so much of everything is because, well, money makes the world go round. That's literally it. That's the reason. And I don't mean this to sound right, like fear-mongering and boo-hooing and everything. But as much as I was, a Disney kid, and I don't mean that like my parents took me to Walt Disney World all the time. First of all, my parents never took me to Walt Disney World. That was a thing in high school that I was constantly like, I want to go to Disney World. And now that I'm older, I want to go when they're about to go bankrupt and all the prices go down. Which means I'm probably never gonna go, realistically. And it's because of how crowded it is, how expensive it is, how just, like, overpriced everything is. Even your local, like, theme park is overpriced. And I understand why, right? Because of how the world economy is going right now, why everything is so overpriced. But I don't honestly think that Disney deserves so much stuff that is so expensive. I have a friend, thanks Claudia, who actually recently went to Disney World. And I asked her, I was like, oh, how was it? She was like, I was expecting so much more for so much money. And when I asked her, well, how much money did you end up saving? She saved up 6 years worth of tax returns to go to Disney World for one weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just 3 days, right? Just 3 days. And she found out that the Disney trip was more expensive than if she would have just given the money to go to stay in France, right? Because she's technically, like, working from there. Like, she hip-hops back and forth. So I was like, what? How is it that expensive? So I asked her, right, because she's also part of the community for my channel. I was like, how much, like, priced was everything? And she told me everything was outrageously priced. She's like, you would think that a park as big as this would understand that some people are just a little bit tired after being stuck in this tuna can that is just getting into the park. Not even actually enjoying it, just getting into the park. And when I asked her, well, didn't you, like, go early? She was like, I did. I got there, like, 20 minutes before it opened, and everybody else that had gotten there got there a little bit sooner than me. So I had to wait in line with, like, 300 people in front of me, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds horrible. But do you see the scam? People want to go to Disney World because it's some big, like, thing. And then I was like, it's really that annoying? She's like, it is really that annoying. It's not fun. And I was under the impression that it would at least be a little fun. She was like, between the kids that are crying because they're just way too young, she goes, and I don't mean that to say this disingenuously for people that take their kids there, but if your kid's a baby, like literally still in the car carrier, what is your kid going to remember? They're not going to remember anything other than it's hot, it's humid, it's sticky, it's loud, and they're uncomfortable. If they remember anything at all. And then the people that are there with, like, their 3-year-olds, okay, again, what is your kid going to really remember other than the photos you're gonna present them? And I was like, that's a fair assessment, but that's not the Disney model, right? It's not. The Disney model has always been and will always be, it's for everybody of any age. And I feel like this is just more the fact that Claudia is like me, where we're like, we don't really mind little kids, but also there is a time and a place for small children, and I feel like a very loud theme park is not the place to do that. So, yeah. But the Disney parks, right, have just gotten so overpriced, where I'm like, when are we just gonna, like, stop going? Like, at this point, Disney's only smart move would be to open up more than the 2 parks they have in the United States. Because, do I want to go to California? No. Do you want to go to Florida? No. If I wanted to be hot and uncomfortable, I would just turn off the air conditioning in my house in the summertime. Realistically, it'd be easier. It really would be. If they made another park anywhere in the United States, and they priced it reasonably, they would probably be making a lot of money. But they don't, because they want the inclusivity of their brand. And their brand is just, in all honesty, in the recent years, is hot garbage. And I don't mean that to say that stuff that they put out isn't good, right? I loved The Owl House, which Disney produced, but then they kneecapped it because it doesn't fit the Disney brand. It's about a girl who goes to a magical world to learn magic that she doesn't know, and also, like, was well received, and it had interesting story and character arcs. How does it not fit the Disney brand? Because I'm gonna let you know right now, as a child who grew up on Disney stuff, The Gargoyles, which was on Disney, oh man, that was a brand new, revolutionary kind of a cartoon where it had interesting arcs, it had deep philosophical story plot lines, it had guns that they would shoot at people. So this, it's not part of the Disney brand. What brand? What brand are you trying to promote? Because at some point, your guys' weird, like, off-putting, we gotta be safe about it stuff is gonna rub so many people the wrong way that they don't want to watch it. They don't. And I do mean that on a literal sense, right? And I brought this up to a friend who's really into Star Wars, and he's like, there's guns in Star Wars. I was like, it is not guns. It is confetti cannons with brightly colored neon Nerf dart guns, because the wizards in that hold glow sticks and use mind powers to choke people. Like, realistically, Star Wars will have to make its own separate video, because I'll just get on my soapbox and then I won't get off of it. But Star Wars should not be the, look, Disney can do adult stuff. Can it? Can it really? Because it really doesn't. It doesn't. It gives you the illusion that it's deep, the illusion that it actually wants to tell you deep and engaging stories. Here's what they're actually telling you. What do we have to do to pander to your specific tastes so that way you will buy the ticket, the subscription, the merchandise, the all of it to get you in the door? That's what the bottom line is. The bottom line is, as I said before,
We're here to remind you about possibly life's greatest joy of all. Money.
That's it. That is realistically what the actual, like, end-all be-all thing of Disney is. They don't care about the guests, the valued customers. They care about how deep your pocketbook is. So, are they going to ring you for every little bit of cash they can? Yeah. Do they tell sometimes really deep and meaningful and engaging stories? No. The people who write and animate these stories are the ones that tell you a deep and engaging story. But Disney gets to slap its name brand logo over it because, in all honesty, Disney gets to have the cash because they're the ones that signed the check. But that's not fair. There should be more interesting stuff that you should be allowed to do and say and, like, experience. Which is why I think more of the indie scene is producing more, like, in all honesty, better animated, like, stuff than I've seen in a while. And before you ask me, well, what? Vivzy Pop's hell of a boss? Despite what you guys are bitching about, like, the last episode of season 1, you're probably never going to get it because it's probably going to be locked up in the copyright lawsuit for quite a bit. So just take it as season 1 ended where they broke up and season 2 starts with the immediate fallout of that breakup. You need to let it go. And if I'm wrong, oh man, I'll be so happy. But Vivzy Pops has proven that, no, through the power of the general public and having an interesting story to tell, She made her own studio. She made her own adult, technically animated cartoon. And it's funny, and it's great, and it's interesting. She proved that, no, you can do this. You just actually have to give an interesting story. Also, Daria Cohen, the lady who does the vampire stuff with the Voltaire soundtrack. Also, another great example of stuff that you can do. And I don't mean this to sound like it's disingenuous. I do mean this on for realsies kinds of a thing. These are people who have shown you that if you work hard enough for it and other people also are just like, this is really, really good and I really want to see more from you, you'll be able to get a fan base. You'll be able to cultivate a environment where these kinds of stories are allowed to flourish and bloom. And I feel like because everything has to be done through this super conservative, Puritan, but what about the children lens? Respectfully, what about the people who don't have kids, who don't want kids, who are still kids but don't want to be stuck into, like, the preteen room with the other little kids? What about them? Right? You don't appeal to them. You appeal to the mom with 6 kids. You appeal to the new parents who need a way to entertain their 5-year-old. You appeal to the kids who get home because their parents are working and just decide to veg out on the couch. Because, you know, it's time to veg out on the couch. Bahaha. You appeal to that demographic, which is not to say that you shouldn't, but it's for everybody. It doesn't feel like it's for everybody, though. It honestly sometimes feels like you guys are just doing whatever will get you the paycheck, whether or not it actually is good for anything. And here's where I bring up the writing topic. If you're gonna reboot something, you need to reboot it in a way that here is the original basis, right? Here's the story, here's the characters, here's the general, like, synopsis of the story. We're rebooting it, which means we're trying to retell it. What are we gonna do for that? Well, if this is the original setting, is there somewhere else in the setting that we can put this to make it more interesting? If the answer is yes, you put that there. Here's the original characters. Okay, we need to reboot this for the next generation or just to make it look a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more snazzy. Can we do that? If it's yes, then you put it in. And then you just say, okay, so how are we going to do this then? How are we going to tell the story? You start telling the story like how you're going to tell any story at the beginning, and you go from there. Find out what made the original story so beloved and be like, okay, they already know this story. Is there a way to retell this story that's still engaging? If yes, then you go. That's what we're looking for. That's what a reboot should be, right? There is a YouTuber that I watch, right, who does, actually I mentioned them before, Thomas Vacuo. They do Winx Club stuff, and every little bit, Thomas Vacuo will sometimes do a rewrite of seasons of the Winx because just however it was presented, absolutely annoying. Just, it's not good. So Thomas Vacuo rewrites it, and rewrites it in a way where here's all the stuff that must remain the same to make this story coherent, make this story plausible, and make this story still understandable, but we're taking out all the stuff that is absolutely unnecessary in it and adding stuff that will engage the reader and viewer more. And I'm gonna let you know right now, as somebody who was point blank not a magical girl person, like I didn't really watch the Winx, it completely missed me. But because of Thomas Vacuo, I have begun to sometimes, in my free time, just been like, what are we talking about in this Thomas Vacuo episode? Because I honestly don't know anything about the Winx. I'll go and watch episodes just so that way I have a basis for what is being said to me, and I'm gonna let you know right now. Thomas Vacuo is entirely correct on their analysis of the Winx Club, and I've never been more excited to, like, gush about a YouTuber. Actually, that's not true. I gush about all my favors. But do you see what I mean? And it's not even that I know Thomas Vacuo. It is quite literally because of what Thomas Vacuo does that, technically speaking, these can be considered reboots of the Winx Club. Because, no, we're still keeping everything the same, but I'm making it so that way it's still, like, appeals and is still understandable to the in general audience. And if it's something that nobody's ever heard of or completely missed them, I wanted to make it interesting so that way other people will go and listen and watch. And I will let you know now, Thomas Vacuo, he did that. I'm going to be completely honest, I actually don't know if Thomas Vacuo is a girl or a boy, so I'm just going to call him Thomas Vacuo because, yes. Thomas Vacuo did it. And like I said, when I read their book, right, because they self-published their own book, which is like not for realsies a magical girl book, it still worked. It still did what it needed to do. And despite the fact that it was a genre of book that I personally don't like to read, but I still read it, I can appreciate what they were trying to do in their book. And I do mean that on a non-satirical, like I'm trying to be funny or dismissive level. It is a very well written, very well understood kind of a book. And I really hope that we get a second book because, man, there's just so much to do. I feel like I'm just like the spokesperson for the self-published genre. Whatever, that's fine. What I'm trying to get at is Disney.
We're here to remind you about possibly life's greatest joy of all. Money.
Your reboots are not fun. Your reboots are boring at best. Your reboots are disingenuous at worst. At the absolute bottom of the barrel is it's just money grabbing. You're only appealing to what you think would be interesting, what you think people want to see. Did it ever stop to occur to you that maybe people are tired of the same stuff over and over again? And if it's going to be the same stuff over again, why not tell it to us in a more interesting way? There are plenty of YouTubers who have torn apart your reboots, right? It has no value for me to do it. I've seen plenty of other YouTubers sit there and tell you to your face how horrible they think your company is becoming because of how you're treating everything. And also, because I finally got to see the guy who's the head of the company, I can say this because it's a personal opinion. You look like a Lex Luthor ripoff. Jesus Christ. And I'm not trying to be mean, right? I'm really not trying to be mean. But Disney, for the love of God, can you please make your reboots either fun like you did with Maleficent and Cruella, or can you just stop doing them because your crappy CGI is actually getting worse and your hand-drawn stuff is actually really well done and I love it more than your crappy CGI. And I mean that on a level of somebody who is very, very picky with their aesthetic. And I can't imagine the people who actually have like knowledge and degrees in the animation sector, when they see how shitty your CGI is, how annoying, right? How annoying it is. I can't imagine what they think, but I would love to know. That being said, that's my hot take on why the Disney reboot should be opposed. Why this is just not fun. Disney needs to do better, because at this point, every little reboot they've done has actually been so boring. And I don't mean that to say I think that it had, good things that it could have done. I can see the good things that things could have done. I'm telling you this from the viewpoint of a writer. Your guys' reboots are boring. Your marketing department is not helping you. Stop. Because it does not lend any credibility to what you're doing. That's it. That's the entire opposition of the Disney reboots. And I don't mean that to say, right, that I'm like hating on Disney because it's the in vogue thing to do. I've actually been very unhappy with Disney for a while. I've just never had a way to articulate it until I actually had to sit down and write this script. It hurts my heart that a beloved company has fallen so low because of, well, greed. That's really all it is. Their greed is going to screw them hard because they don't know how to just leave well enough alone. That's it. that's really all we have to say for today. Thank you so much to the editor, the patrons, and also you lovely viewers. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. Bye-bye!